What is going on, guys? Welcome back to After the Credits, the review show that no one asked for. Today we are talking about the first Berserker Khazan, and I had an absolutely incredible time playing through this game. But the real question for this video is, do we finally have a game that will break into that illustrious S tier? We have yet to find one in 2025. Will first Berserker Khazan be the first one to get there? We'll have to stick around to find out. But without further ado, let's roll the intro and get into the discussion for the first Berserker Khazan.
What the fuck is going on?
In the 89th year of the Pelos Empire, General Khazan stands as a living legend renowned for his strength, honor, and battlefield prowess. But when political conspiracies take root, he is branded a traitor by the very leaders he once served. Stripped of his title, tortured, and exiled to the frozen wilderness, Khazan is left to die in disgrace. There, on the brink of death, he encounters a mysterious force known as the Blade Phantom, an ancient spirit forged from the souls of fallen warriors. Instead of dying, Khazan is reborn through a harrowing trial, bound to this spectral entity and awakened to powers beyond mortal comprehension. With his body restored and his spirit hardened, he embarks on a dark and dangerous journey through a crumbling empire riddled with corruption, conflict, and supernatural unrest. As Khazan travels through devastated battlefields, forgotten ruins, and cursed lands, he must face powerful foes, uncover long-buried secrets, and confront the shifting mortality of his own choices. Along the way, he is forced to question not only who betrayed him, but whether the vengeance he seeks will restore what was lost or consume what little remains of the man he once was. With the balance of the empire and his soul at stake, Khazan marches toward a reckoning that will define the fate of an entire world. The setting in the first Berserker Khazan checks off all of my boxes. I fucking love it, and I especially love the concept of the Blade Phantom. He's a demon from the Netherrealm that was sent to the mortal world to cleanse the world of these leaks that have appeared that are allowing spirits from the Netherrealm to come into the mortal world. And this is a massive problem because it's throwing off the balance between the two realms, sending them both into chaos. The problem for the Blade Phantom is he needs a strong mortal host in order to achieve what he's looking to do, and that's where Khazan comes in. And that is a fucking sick premise for a video game. Now, that said, as much as I love this type of setting and lore, the overall story is unfortunately pretty bland and predictable. The game introduces characters with barely any context, only to bring them back later, expecting emotional investment that just doesn't land. Honestly, I think Final Fantasy X might have ruined me in that regard. I can just spot shallow character development from a mile away, and unfortunately, it's quite hard to ignore here. Sound-wise, I've got no complaints. The sound design is solid across the board. The soundtrack hits super hard where it should, but I just want to give a special shout out to the parry sound that this game provides. Anytime a game has a good parry sound, I am going to go all in on that. And this game has a very satisfying one, so kudos to them for that. Now let's move on to what's important in this genre, and that is the gameplay. So before we get into that, I just want to touch on the performance quickly. It is absolutely flawless from start to finish in this game, which is crucial for a game in this genre. The absolute last thing that you want to experience is a death due to something you couldn't control, and this game has no issue with that. It runs absolutely beautifully from start to finish. Now, this game, because of that performance, feels so fucking good to play through. The first weapon set that you get in the game starts you off with a dual wield set, which is an axe and a sword. How fucking baller is that? I love that the devs went all the way in here. Instead of giving you like twin daggers or two short swords, they give you a fucking axe and a sword. And that aesthetic is just absolutely unrivaled in my opinion as far as gaming goes. I know it sounds weird, but it just looks so damn intimidating on Khazan that honestly, because of that, the dual wield set ended up being my primary weapon throughout the playthrough. I normally go for kind of a short sword or dagger build in Souls-like, so it was a natural fit to my playstyle. Agile enough to be fluid during fights, but pack enough of a punch to feel good, even though this set does deal the lowest damage in the game. But all in all, this is my jam. This felt the best for me, and I loved it. An hour or so later, you get introduced to the remaining 2 weapons in the game. The heavy as shit greatsword, which I never used, and the lance, which became my primary backup weapon. Now, the lance is the main stamina breaking weapon in the game, so it really is kind of the go-to for human enemies that regenerate stamina at a very rapid pace. The lance just eats that shit up, and boy does it feel good when you start pounding people with that pole. What? Now, I can't comment on the greatsword. It's the complete opposite of my preferred playstyle in these types of games. Super slow, heavy, usually not the most enjoyable for me to use, so I didn't use it at all here, but I know the community has used it quite a bit and has enjoyed it, but it's not my playstyle, so I can't comment on that. Now, since I spent way too much time talking about the axe and the sword, let's move on to the mechanics, because that's really where this game gets set apart from the others in the genre. Now, this game plays quite similar to Sekiro in the sense that the most important thing to prioritize in fights is the stamina or posture bar. Your attacks do very little damage in terms of HP, but you are constantly chipping away at the enemy's secondary bar. Once that bar depletes completely, you exhaust the enemy and are able to perform a brutal attack, which deals a chunk of health damage to the enemy, while also refilling your own stamina bar, which allows for a devastating combo after sending out the brutal attack. Now, unlike in Sekiro, brutal attacks don't completely kill as they do in Sekiro. They just do a chunk of damage, and usually not a very big chunk either. These bosses are complete tanks that require multiple brutals to finish off. This game pulls absolutely no punches in terms of difficulty, none at all, but we will get to that a little bit later. This game offers your standard Souls-like experience. Dodges and parries are in abundance here while you wait for the perfect time to counterattack your foes. In addition to those essentials, you also have counterattacks that are very important. Counterattacks are performed when an enemy throws an attack and you see a symbol on your character. And just as the attack is about to land, you hold the block button plus the triangle button, and this will initiate the counterattack. This is the most devastating attack to posture and stamina in the game, so you want to land these as often as possible. It's not as hard as it seems though, because once you figure out the timing for these attacks, you can pull it off pretty consistent. Now, to contrast with the counterattacks, you also have reversals in this game that are very similar, but there is no indicator for these, and these reversals can be used on normal attacks that enemies will throw your way. And this is done by holding the block and the circle button. This is much harder to consistently land because it's a much tighter timing window, and there is no bright flashing indicator telling you when to use them. And unfortunately, you cannot reverse every attack in the game, so it is incredibly risky, but incredibly rewarding when you pull it off. Now, you level in this game just like you would in every Souls-like you've ever played. Killing enemies grants Lacrima, and this can be exchanged at the Blade Nexus for character levels. Now, on top of that, you also earn skill points, which is actually a completely different system that is used to level up weapon-specific abilities. These points can be used to unlock different passives, such as longer counterattack windows, further distance on your dodges, less stamina usage, and so on. They also unlock weapon-specific skills that are bound to your left bumper. This system is awesome because it makes the game feel more like a hack and slash than a Souls-like, but it is just as hard as the latter genre. Now, to use these weapon-specific abilities, you have to build up spirit. This can be built up by simply attacking enemies or consuming spirit ores that you pick up along your journey, and you can use those if you're having trouble building those up naturally. But you accrue more and more of these as you play through the game, so you can do more special abilities as the game progresses. Now, with there only being 3 weapon varieties in the game, it offers build complexity in the form of armor sets. Just like an ARPG, you collect gear that is a part of a larger set. The more pieces you equip from that set, the more perks you unlock that are tied to that specific set of gear. This is a fantastic way of allowing players creativity because even though there's not a large variety of weapons, you can still build sets completely in your own way, allowing for your own play style, and I just absolutely love that. I think it fits perfectly into this genre. Now, this review has been really glowing so far, but now it's time to kind of move on to the not so great aspects of this game, so let's get into it. Now, we briefly mentioned the story struggles early, and that is so disappointing. They have the perfect setting for this game, so being let down on the lack of character development was a hard pill for me to swallow. Now, I am aware that this game is tied to Dungeon Fighter Online, which is a different game, but Dungeon Fighter Online was pulled from North America in 2013, so there may be more context in that game. However, those of us in America are unable to even access that to find out, so I guess I'll never know. Now, the difficulty has to be talked about here as well. This game is an absolute monster in challenge. It's on Sekiro's level, unquestionably, and Sekiro is widely accepted as the most difficult game in the genre. To be fair, Khazan does offer an easy mode, which I did not try, but I believe it offers a more forgivable stamina regeneration system and some other things that lessen the weight offered here. But even with the lower difficulty, I still think you'd be looking at a very difficult experience. Probably tougher than Dark Souls 3 even, or on that same level, so still going to get something difficult. Some definite mountain to climb, even for veterans of the genre. Lastly, I think the game's runtime is just a little bit too long, and by a little bit too long, I mean 10 to 15 hours too long. It took me 70 hours to beat the game plus all of the side content, and HowLongToBeat.com said that this game's story was 40 hours, but you would have to be a complete fucking psycho to be able to beat this game in 40 hours. I don't even know how that's possible when you're not using Spirit of Advocacies or summons and things of that nature. There's no fucking way your first playthrough is going to be 40 hours long. So, since my playthrough crossed the 70-hour mark, I would have liked it a whole lot more if they just shaved off 10 to 15 hours. Now, obviously, I know that this time is going to be different depending on your skill level and things of that nature. I'm definitely not saying that I am great at these games, so a lot of the fault is on my own shoulders here, but I just would have had a better time if it was a little bit short. Now, of course, that leaves us at the part of the video where we have to conclude the review by giving it a rating from the S2 Cheeks tier list. And unfortunately, this game is going to slot in the A tier. It's so close to being an S tier game, but unfortunately, due to the kind of excessive game length that I experienced, the writing issues that we discussed in the story section of the video, and the fact that this game is almost impossible to recommend to people because it is such a difficult mountain to have to climb. I mean, the only people I could really recommend it to are like Sekiro players, because they're kind of used to this game's combat style. But other than that, that's kind of a small subset of people, to be honest. So it's just a game that has got one too many flaws for me to confidently put it in the S tier, but we'll see at the end of the year when we do our year in review. It might get a bump at that point. I definitely want to put it there, but if I just follow the rating structure that I've used for the series throughout the entirety of the time I've been making these videos, it just seems to fit a little bit better in the A tier. Very high A tier, very high A tier, but not quite S tier, unfortunately. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you so much for watching all the way through to the end. If you did, you're a fucking maniac and a legend, and I love you. Thank you very much. I apologize for the delay on this one. We had a couple filler videos that I had to go ahead and upload in the time being because I was running behind on this, and of course, the game ended up taking a day longer than I had expected because we're uploading it a day late. Try to do video uploads on Friday. This is going up on Saturday, so kind of sucky, but we make do with what we can. So it is what it is. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm excited to get into a new game and start working on another video. So Thanks for all the support. Love you all. Take care of yourself as my voice goes out. Take care of yourself. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you on the next one.